I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat disinfected.
Hey, Kiernan.
Hi, Ryan. How are you? You holding up?
I am good. I'm living the dream.
Are you living this is not
I mean,
the dream.
I don't know. Yeah, no, it's not. I'm doing fine. You know,
I think we're both doing fine. And Ryan, I got to say, we're starting at a place of a little disappointment this week. Because,
really?
Yeah, at the end of the previous episode, we made a promise, a pact
with the audience,
to our audience, where we said that this week we would be discussing the growth of virtual experiences during COVID-19. So you've got, Rick Steves has a new virtual experience for his guides. You've got Airbnb. Well, excuse me.
I'm sorry. That's just me thinking about virtual experiences.
You've got Airbnb experiences happening. But, Ryan, while we made a pact, and that is important to us, we also made a calculation. And as it turned out, since that last episode, we don't need virtual experiences anymore. Everything is back to normal.
The Magic Kingdom is open.
The Disney World is open. Yeah. Theme parks opening up, welcoming guests.
What could go wrong?
What COVID is what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So
we decided, we got together, we discussed it, we debated it, and we said, let's push off that virtual experience episode. We got to bring the news of the day to our travel listeners. We got to talk about theme parks opening up in the middle of a growing pandemic.
We need to take that plunge down Splash Mountain, right?
Oh, you can't say that anymore. Splash Mountain's gone.
Why is Splash Mountain gone?
Ryan, you really are from the South. Splash Mountain is based on Song of the South.
Can't they just change it to make it like Mickey Mountain or something?
They are changing it.
Yeah,
they're turning tail, and they're taking out Brer Rabbit. They're taking out Brer Bear. They're taking out Zippity Doodah, and they are introducing are you familiar with The Princess and the Frog?
Yes.
First African American Disney princess. Features upbeat and exciting music from the Louisiana Bayou, and I think it's a great fit for the new Splash Mountain. I don't know what it's going to be called, but Splash Mountain is no more, my friend.
Okay, well, I didn't mean to take a plunge off Splash Mountain. I meant in the future when Splash Mountain is reimagined. Okay. What about the Hall of Presidents? That's fine, right?
I don't know. There's some slaveholders in there.
Oh, that's true.
Quite a few, in fact.
Yeah.
Have you seen the recent controversy now that Hamilton's out? Historians are really starting to rip into the history there.
It took them a while because
yeah. I feel like there was like a scattering of that when it was becoming the biggest musical in history, but now that it's on TVs, the historians are out and the gloves are off.
Yeah, because it hasn't gotten any less historically accurate than when it opened.
No, it's an exact recording.
Yeah, they did a good job capturing the inauthentic history.
Now, Ryan, did you ever see Hamilton?
I saw it at the Public. So
with the original cast?
No, I didn't see it with the original cast of the Public. I did see it at the original because Lynn was sick that day because anyway.
So you saw some non-Lynn Hamilton?
Non-Lynn, but then I saw Hamilton with Lynn like his last week in New York.
When it was already on Broadway.
On the Great White Way, yeah.
So you never saw
the Great White Way.
You never saw it pre-Broadway with Lynn original cast. Is that what you're saying?
I was one of the lucky ones who only had this.
Saw someone who could sing.
Saw someone who could sing and do hip hop. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I personally, I saw it at the Public with Lynn and the full original cast. But
you had to buy strategically to miss Lynn, so that's why I picked that Sunday matinee.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
The audience is just turning off right now. They're like, are they talking about Broadway?
They're not interested. Also, going after Lin-Manuel Miranda is not a way to grow the audience.
No. Well, I mean, nowadays,
popular.
Actually,
pretty popular. You know what? He's actually likely to be a future
guest.
No, I wish a future. I do know his cousin. Well, pretty well. Actually,
I think Lin-Manuel's cousin would still draw a few people who would not see the cousin.
Lin-Manuel's cousin dates a good friend of mine and an avid listener to this podcast.
Wow.
So he can. We're that means we're just 1, 2, 3. We're just 3 steps away from Lin-Manuel. And the reason that I think he's going to be a future topic on the show is because he is working on a new Disney film, and he's been ensconced in the music of Colombia. The Colombian rhythms, 2 years of study he's been devoting. He just said this on Fresh Air the other day. Now, I have to admit, I was surprised. Did they just feel because he speaks some Spanish from his Puerto Rican heritage that he could just suddenly be a master of Colombian music?
Yeah, they're aware that Colombia is like an entirely different culture than Puerto Rico.
Separate culture, separate country. I have to admit,
Different music,
I was very surprised.
Yeah.
But I think maybe we should one day we should do a follow-up to this Disney World episode. We should talk about Disney tackling travel stories. You got Coco. You and I both love Coco.
I love Coco.
Yeah, we both think they did a really good job.
And they worked with they made sure to work with a lot of folks who were from Mexico and were Mexican.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely correct.
They didn't have Lin-Manuel come in there and just,
No, it was a surprise. But you know what? We're not going to prejudge. We're going to wait. We're going to wait till the film is out.
And if Lynn's cousin is listening to this, tell him we say hi.
Yeah, tell him we say hi. And I loved his performance at the Public. Ryan wasn't able to see Lynn at the Public, but I loved it at the Public. So now, Ryan, who did you see as King George?
I did not see
Brian Darcy
James, who I love. I love Brian Darcy James. That man's voice.
Yeah.
Oof.
Controversial opinion here. Better King George. Absolutely better King George. Brian Darcy Jones.
Yeah, but really bad at picking musicals,
Well, what you're referring to, I believe, is that he was the original King George, that he gave up that spot, which, by the way, is the best cast, which, by the way, is
you work like 15 minutes a night.
It's the absolute best role one could get. You work 15 minutes. They're incredibly funny, and you get to be part of the Hamilton cast. But he did get to be the leading man in a show that you and I saw together called Something Rotten, and which the title actually described the show very well.
Yeah. And he chose to do that instead of, never have to work again by being in the original cast of Hamilton.
Right. Well, Brian Darcy James always also welcome.
He also left Next to Normal off Broadway to be in Shrek the musical, which was also a short run. So he missed two real runs there. Oh
yeah,
got to cut all this because we've just lost everybody.
No. We're gonna bring him back because we're gonna talk about, and I think we're gonna mostly end up criticizing. But I don't know. We're gonna argue it out. What are the effects? What's our take about destination theme parks reopening to the public, even as COVID is taking over so many states? Resurgence, we're still the first wave breaking and growing in these states. So, Ryan, unless you've got any more Hamilton talk and you want to talk about how you saw a lesser cast at the Public, I think it's time that we take off.
Yeah, let's get this flight to Orlando.
Tell the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
That's such a short flight from Orlando to New York. New York to Orlando, you're there. Okay, so here we are. It is the middle of July, essentially.
Yeah, we're recording in the middle of July. It's not a live show.
No, because we have to edit out all of your incredible profanity. Folks don't know.
Ryan, come on. What we edit out is 45 minutes of talking Broadway.
Folks don't know that opening about Hamilton was 2 hours of actual conversation. Edited down to 25 minutes or whatever.
But don't worry, if you become a paid Patreon member, you'll be able to listen to that. No, we don't have a Patreon. Not yet.
No, people should pay us not to talk about Broadway. The Broadway free episodes are behind the paywall. Okay. So
it's middle of July.
It's middle of July, and coronavirus is the second wave of coronavirus is sweeping the country in states like
Fauci says it's still the first.
Well, the first has never went away then, but coronavirus is sweeping the country. It's hitting Florida incredibly hard, Arizona, California, states that had Texas, states that had initially escaped coronavirus, had opened up early, etc., are now experiencing what New York experienced, a few months ago. That's a safe thing to say, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you do in the face of, over 15,000 cases a day, which Florida just recently reported?
So what do you do when you have cases rising so quickly in your state? You open up a kingdom for people to walk around and be close together on rides and restaurants and entertainment. That's what you would do, right?
Oh, absolutely. I would throw open the doors. I had probably lower ticket prices. And Ryan, I think I would probably tune up the orchestra and I would sing, "Be our guest, be our guest. Come on in, take a COVID test."
Put your mask on, my friend, and then you can see the rest.
Yeah, put your immune system to the test.
Somebody tweeted the Disney Fast Pass now gets you straight to the ICU.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got theme parks. I mean, we're picking on Disney specifically, but you've got openings across a lot of major theme parks. You've got the Disney World opening. You've got Universal Studios. You've got Hershey Park in Pennsylvania, Legoland. And Ryan, I think you even, a place that you had to cancel a trip to. Well, guess what, my friend? You can get back on that plane, put on your rubber gloves, put on your N95. You're going to Dollywood, baby.
Dollywood is open. Hopefully Dolly's not there because she's, over 70. So
no, Dolly's over 70?
Yeah, she must be. So what does Disney have to say? Like what are they doing to make sure that it is safe for families to return to their theme park?
Well, they're trying to prove to the world that they can reopen safely. They've reopened some of the parks overseas. And there's actually, believe it or not, there's a position called Disney's Chief Medical Officer.
Yeah.
It's a woman named Dr. Pamela Heimel.
Well, it's a kingdom. You think they would have a chief medical officer.
Yeah, I know, but do you think that she gets to like dress up as Ludwig von Drake or something? Do you even know that character?
I don't.
Oh, that's one of my favorite characters. He's this duck. He's a duck, sort of in the DuckTales universe,
right? And
he has like a thick, like Bavarian Freud accent. Anyway, he's a doctor of all sorts. He's a medical expert,
right?
And surely he inspired Dr. Pamela Heimel, the chief medical officer of Disney, who said, quote, "While COVID-19 and the risk of contracting it is present in public places, there are many important ways that we can all help promote each other's safety at the parks."
Right. So when you start to look through photos of the opening of Disney, you see things like a woman in a mask and then a face shield. She's got a mask and a face shield, and she's standing there while you're scanning in your ticket. I've never been to Disney in a while, but apparently you scan things now.
Yeah.
And then everyone is wearing face masks. So
and you have to get your temperature taken while you're going in the park.
Right. And I would be excited. So I'd have a temperature just from my body being like, whoa. I'm
the happiest place on earth.
Yeah.
Also, it's 105 degrees because it's Orlando in July. So.
Right. So the guy who covered the opening for USA Today is a travel journalist and a Disney expert.
Sure. I consider myself a bit of a Disney expert.
Well, he says he feels more safe at Walt Disney World than he does his local supermarket.
Well,
okay.
Sure.
I don't know how that works, but he said that basically the walls of plexiglass shields are a constant health safety reminder, and they pulled him out of his fantasy. Well, what if your fantasy was just, I want to visit a theme park in the middle of a global pandemic?
I mean,
because they nailed that ride.
They did have. The articles were filled with visitors saying, "Oh, I've been trapped inside for so long. This is like really brightening my life." But I just feel like the question is it worth the risk of being so close? And also there were like photos where they're keeping people 6 feet apart.
Right.
And, I just have to think there would be so many rules. Have you tried to go to a farmer's market in the midst of the pandemic? It is nothing like the experience that you've had before. And I have to think, I think I would go into Disney World and I would just be like, oh my God, there are just like so many restrictions all over the place.
But the lines are apparently much shorter.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So things like the 7 Dwarf Mine Train, which you would probably love. But typically, it's a long line. Now under 30-minute wait. So while you're just there, 30 minutes of socially distanced line. It's sort of like getting a COVID test. It just takes about 30 minutes. Now in this country,
Except
that takes hours.
Yeah, right. Most parts of this country, it takes like 5 to 7 days.
Yes. Now, Kiernan, can you talk a little bit about these relaxation stations that Disney set up?
Yeah, so Disney has strategically set up what they're calling relaxation zones. And these are zones where if you've gotten too worked up from having to follow all the rules, they are air-conditioned indoor spaces where you can remove your mask and breathe freely, thank God.
So you can go into relaxation zones, which I think of COVID appreciation zones.
Sure.
Where you can take off your mask. Hopefully you're distanced, right? I mean, look, you and I both agree.
The tables within the relaxation zone are 10 feet apart.
Now, guests are eating inside restaurants, right? So places like Adventureland's Jungle Skipper Canteen.
Yeah, okay? Sure, of course.
Even though seating capacity is reduced, guests can remove their mask while they sit and eat at the table. So people are inside eating at a place called the Jungle Canteen, which, by the way, sounds like a place you'd catch something to begin with, like malaria.
Yeah. they're probably, I think they probably serve bat in there.
Yeah, it's
bats
like you
and pangolins.
It's like, sorry for the cholera, but it's part of the experience, And then another interesting rule that they've implemented: if you attempt to take your mask off on any of the rides where you can buy a picture afterwards, they will erase your picture from the
oh my God,
from the computer,
really?
And they would not let you get it. So it's a no mask, no photo policy at Disney right now.
Unless it's a photo taken in one of the relaxation zones.
Well, I don't think they sell. I mean, they should monetize the relaxation zones. Those are like, those are the most interesting things at Disney right now.
I'll tell you who I think is probably the safest at the parks is the characters that have the giant masks on. I feel like if I were a cast member, I'd be like, oh, maybe today I'm Goofy.
And do you think that they're making the characters wear a mask as just a display of good citizenship? Like, I don't want to talk to Mickey if he's up there in my face without a mask on.
I see. So you're suggesting they put an oversized mask onto the
character mask.
The character mask. I love that. I don't think they are doing that though. But you're right. That would be a good example for children.
Yeah, it would say, oh look, if Mickey can wear a mask over his huge mouth and nose, certainly I can. With my normal size face.
Yeah.
Now, have you done anything, Kiernan, where you've had to do a temperature check? And what's your current situation there in Boston?
Well, I don't do anything. I stay in my house with my child, and I see my wife. And I haven't ventured anywhere. I go to the supermarket, but I haven't gone anywhere risky where they've had to take my temperature. Office is closed indefinitely. I do occasionally take my own temperature in the house just to get a feel for what's going on. Catherine and I have both discovered that we always have very low temperatures, which feels, you're like proud when that happens now. It's like you're the anti-COVID.
I got a haircut here in New York.
Did you get a shave?
I did. I didn't get a shave. No, they're not doing shaves yet, just haircuts. Important distinction.
Sure.
But I got a haircut and I had to do a temperature check when I went in. I had to sign a waiver. And obviously both myself and my hairstylist used a mask.
I could see why they made you sign a waiver given the haircut that you got.
Oh.
Nailed it.
So would you bring your family to Disney right now?
No, I wouldn't bring them to Legoland. I wouldn't bring them to Dollywood. I wouldn't bring them to Hershey Park right now. I don't see it as worth the risk. I also just don't believe I would have any fun. I believe I'd be too worried. I feel like the thrill ride is entering the park and just sweating out whether you're going to get COVID. It's sort of like COVID land. Yeah,
a little bit, and then, but you don't get your presents for like a little bit. You don't get your reward though until a week or two after your visit. That's when you find out if you've won.
So some delayed gratification is what you're
saying. Exactly. Now, this is one of my favorite little details of the situation. And this is not, I haven't read this around Disney, but it would make sense. But you've read what they're doing in Japan on some of these roller coasters, the rules that they've implemented.
Yeah. And this was at a Disney park as well.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, in Japan at a theme park called Fuji-Q Highland, and in Tokyo Disneyland, they are asking folks not to scream as a safety measure, because when you scream, when you open your mouth wide, even if behind a mask, you're putting droplets out into the air, increased droplets into the air. So they ask you not to scream on rides.
And actually, Kiernan, they're showing a safety video where they tell folks it's okay to scream if they scream inside their heart. Right? Which is something that, I do constantly on conference calls.
Yeah,
all day, so.
Yeah. You spend enough hours on Zoom, endless screaming inside your heart.
Yeah, it's like being at Disney World.
Absolutely. Actually, it would be pretty funny if somebody was using a Disney World Zoom background this week.
That is a funny idea.
That's pretty good, especially if you put on the ears, if you have a pair of the ears at your house.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Do you think that they have the ears now, and then they just connect to a mask?
Yeah,
so it's like
I was wondering that myself.
Yeah.
By the way,
they must be selling all sorts of great masks there. So it does seem, to Disney's credit, and we can't speak obviously to all the other theme parks in the world. To Disney's credit, it seems like there is near universal usage of face mask, both on the side of the visitors and obviously everyone who's working in the park. So it looks like they're taking that incredibly serious, and they're setting up incentives to keep you having that mask on the rides. And so while it's wildly irresponsible for them to open, at least they're, following some basic safety guidelines, right?
Well, I would. So let me say this. So have you've been to Disney World?
Yeah, I have been to Disney World. And,
how
not
long?
when there was a global. I was 13, so 5 years ago.
So
no, more than
Disney is. No, you're way older than that. So Disney is it's a bit of a dystopian landscape, right? Because everything is very closely monitored there. You're always being watched. They have lots of safety procedures going on. And one instance that I really remember from when I was a kid and I went in fourth grade, my brother Brendan, we were walking around one of the hotels, and he reached up into a tree, just a teenager, not really thinking, reached up into a tree and he grabbed a leaf. And he was tearing this leaf, just, something to do with his hands while we were walking.
Right.
And a whistle blew from like off in the distance. And a guy came jogging up, a cast member came jogging up, and he said, I just want to let you know, we ask that you don't rip leaves off the trees here at Disney. And it just went to show you, like, you're always being watched. So sort of in the same way that,
right.
The Singapores and the Hong Kongs have done a really good job at locking down during COVID. Yeah. Maybe Disney World is actually the safest place to be.
So you're saying that Disney World, its totalitarianism allows it to really maintain safety.
That is what I'm saying. Absolutely.
That's fascinating.
I'll also say they've done something fun. Now, I will say, Ryan, I think if you and I worked at Disney, this is something we probably would have pitched and come up with, which is Disney has unveiled their own line of reusable cloth face masks. And they're very clever, just like how the ears, we'll even put them on the old Instagram at out of office, at OOO podcast. That's at OOO podcast, like podcast.
Ooh.
And the idea is that it makes the lower half of your face look like you're one of the iconic characters. You can be Mickey, Winnie the Pooh, Stitch,
one of the iconic characters. Like
I would say they've worked really hard to make Stitch iconic.
It does not surprise me that Disney has figured out how to commercialize the coronavirus.
I mean, very soon.
I mean, why don't they have like ventilators made out of Herbie the
Love Bug?
Oh yeah, Hobie the Love Bug.
Oh my God, Ryan, how are you? How old are you? You think people are getting Herbie the Love Bug references and you're making fun of Stitch?
People listening to us are more likely to get the Herbie the Love Bug reference.
For what it's worth, you beat me to the ventilator joke. That's where I was going. No, yeah. I agree, Ryan. They could give the whole 360 experience from contracting COVID at the park all the way to
a fancy ICU where you experience the magic.
A fantasy ICU, absolutely.
Where Goofy is your doctor who's coming to give you the bleach injections. Yeah.
Did they make all dogs go to heaven? Maybe it could be all dog go to heaven.
No, that's Fox. That's
really? That's not them?
Yeah, it's a good one though.
Yeah.
You know what I just brought up to somebody? No. Oliver and you remember Oliver and Company?
I've never seen Oliver and Company.
Oh my gosh. Folks.
I think what they should do is the ICU, the Disney themed ICU should have all the dead parents of all the protagonists throughout their movies. So, you get Bambi's mother.
Totally.
You get Anna and Elsa's parents, and that you could just be totally surrounded by those who have gone before.
In the same way that the gay bar in Pleasure Island has all like the cute princes around it.
Is there a gay bar in Pleasure Island?
I would not be Pleasure Island without a gay bar.
Does Pleasure Island still exist for sure?
There used to be a gay bar in Pleasure Island.
Yeah, I don't know if Pleasure Island's a thing anymore. Seems like it would be. People love that. Closed 2008.
Wow.
Oh man, dated.
Well, there was a gay bar in Pleasure Island
before it closed in 2008.
Yeah.
Do you know what it was called?
God, I'm looking. There were mannequins that rotated on the dance floor.
Oh,
it sounds great.
It sounds horrible.
I don't remember what it was called. I just remember like Peter Pan, who's obviously the only gay character they've ever. One of the only gay characters. He was up on the wall there.
Is that true?
I think it's true.
That's a real sense of humor Disney's showing there.
That was, things are crazy in the aughts. I'm going to find this. I'm going to verify this. So what's interesting? We've been talking about Disney World. We haven't been talking about Disneyland. And why is that?
Well, because, we're East Coasters. We're not, Disney World is where it's at. It's the world.
No, because California did not allow Disneyland to reopen.
Oh, God bless California.
Right. So, it is interesting to see. We're getting an experiment. We're going to see is Disney's reopening going to lead to even more of a spike in COVID cases than Florida's currently experiencing? And is it a good idea? Will California be rewarded for keeping Disneyland closed? So it's like an A/B test.
It's a natural experiment.
Yeah, it's a natural experiment.
So it sounds like, Ryan, you're saying that we're going to have a follow-up episode in 2 to 3 weeks where that we get to see the results of this natural experiment.
Yeah, I think that we will on this show most certainly monitor, how COVID is affecting travel, and this is a big thing right now because a lot of the museums are not open yet. Broadway shows are closed until next year. This is one of the big things that exists that folks in America can do. So it's going to be curious to see what happens.
Yeah, let's hope that the Haunted Mansion doesn't soon get an influx of new ghosts.
Oh,
too dark.
Well, let's hope that people's visit to Disney World is not their last stop.
Oh, really dark. Oh, wait, I have to do what you do. Last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan,
we made it out of Disney World alive.
Well, we don't know that yet. Give it 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. Now, Ryan, we are here in the last stop. This is the last segment of the show, the final segment of the show. From the numbers, we can see we've got many new listeners. So I should explain what we do here at the end of the show. This is a time of meditation. It's sort of a quiet moment. We like to joke around early in the show, but this is where we get serious and we look inside ourselves. And Ryan and I each bring to the podcast at this time one thing that we did, that we read, that we bought, something maybe we cooked, anything that fed the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workaday week. And goodness knows the week is workaday. These days. So, Ryan, I have to ask you now, as I do every week, do you have a last stop this week?
I do have a last stop, Kiernan.
And would you care to share it with the class?
So, Kiernan, you know that I have been to Istanbul. I've been lucky enough to to spend a good amount of time in the city and see a lot of its beautiful sights. And one day we'll do an episode about it. But they just announced the Hagia Sophia.
Oh, the big mosque.
Well, it was a huge museum.
It was a museum.
Right. Well, it's actually originally a Orthodox Christian cathedral.
Okay.
But it was converted into a mosque like in the 1500s or something. So it's it's been a mosque for a long time, but then it was turned into a museum
Mm-hmm.
and an UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Did you visit it?
I did. It was extraordinary. We got to go in and tour it, and I have some extraordinary pictures that I can throw up on the old Instagram. But there's been a move to like conservatism and populism in Turkey, and they have now decided to turn this back into a functioning mosque and eliminate folks' abilities to really experience it. It's a real shame.
And do you think, right, because as non-Muslims, presumably we won't be allowed in?
Yeah, I mean, once something becomes a World Heritage Site, in theory, it then belongs to all of humanity, right? That's the idea, at least.
Do you know whether non-Muslims will be allowed inside?
I don't think we know exactly what will happen now, but certainly, like the ability to visit it will be dramatically reduced.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think give it another 100 years and it'll become a Christian church? Is it just moving backwards in its timeline?
I mean, maybe back to a museum at some point.
So you're saying it's swing forward.
Yeah, it's a different swing. I mean, certainly this is like a move that not everyone in Turkey agrees with. Many folks who lean more secular think this should be, still be a site that everyone can come and experience. But for now, it's going to be turned into a mosque.
When you visited it as a museum, is it purely a museum about the history of it as a religious site?
No, I mean, yeah, it was a museum about sort of the history of the space.
Of the building.
Yeah, exactly. And there was art in it and all sorts of other things. Now, there are all these like Christian emblems, right? So there's like a mosaic of the Virgin Mary in the main dome area. That apparently is going to stay. Yeah. And they do say that all the doors will be wide open to locals and foreigners. But as a functioning mosque, it's just not going to feel as open, I'm sure, as it is when it's like everyone is going to this mosque. So we'll see how this works. Although, look, St. Patrick's is a functioning church.
That's true. Absolutely.
Yeah, people still go there. So I guess it all depends on how they will, execute this idea.
Sure. I mean, it's a wait and see sort of scenario to see what it's going to be like. But I could see what you're saying, which is, even if you wanted to visit it today at a time that, would overlap with like a religious ceremony, that's a time where you won't be able to see it as a tourist as readily.
Right. And look, this is the most popular tourist site in all of Turkey. They had 3.7 million visitors last year. So you can imagine trying to get 3.7 million people to be able to visit a functioning mosque when there are regular prayers and gatherings happening. So it's just not going to be as open.
Yeah, pretty fascinating.
So, Kiernan, do you have a last stop this week?
Right. Not only do I have a last stop this week, this was also originally going to be your last stop, and I stole it from you.
You did. Well, you don't usually listen to these kind of podcasts. This isn't your
that's true.
MO.
That's true. I'm not
your MO, as they say.
I'm not a big true crime junkie podcast. And, I've listened to the serials and the like really blockbuster ones.
Right.
But there is a new podcast out called Park Predators. And it's hosted by a journalist, a woman named Delia D'Ambra. And, what she's
Park Predators. That's all about bears and tigers and lions. And
no, it's
people who litter.
It's much darker than that. Each episode profiles a heinous crime that was committed within the boundaries of a national park. And so far,
smoking marijuana.
So far, they've released 3 episodes. And, they're usually about 20 minutes to 45 minutes. They are swift investigations into beheadings and grisly murders and suspects and arrests and park rangers. What it's mostly about, though, is about how secluded one can be when they are in a national parkland, because that's where these predators, these murderers, come to get you.
Yeah. And we should say that most of the time when you visit a national park or a state park, you're not going to be murdered.
I mean, most of the time.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, most of the time it's fine.
Yes, I will say this podcast was recommended to me by a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's the number one podcast on iTunes right now. So, it's right under us. We're number 0 and number 1.
We're number 0. All right. Are you serious? Is it actually that high?
It's a huge hit. Yeah. Yeah. And it follows. So I should say there are different kinds of true crime podcasts, right? There are the ones that have a lot of audio and a lot of interviews and you get to hear a lot of voices. And then there are ones that sort of have spooky music with somebody reading a text the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this falls in that category. This is just, the host.
Second, it's in the second category. Yeah.
And my big problem, Kiernan, is that, every story, even though they have different names, it really is just people go hiking and they don't come back. There just isn't a whole, it's just not the most sort of diverse sort of storytelling. It's like, and then this person went hiking and then they find their car and then it's like, it's the same story, different years. Format. Yeah. I mean, if I guess it's thrilling for you because you've been to you're like, oh, I've been to that mountain where that woman was murdered.
I haven't been to every park, but I will say I do get,
the first one's in.
I enjoy it more when it's in a park that I've been to, for sure. Yeah. They've hit Glacier, Shenandoah so far.
Yeah. But you were not there, by the way, any of the same time that these unsolved murders took place.
No, absolutely not, Ryan. Come on now. But I do think that is a bit of the problem where I get hooked. Like I'm excited to hear when they mention a park that I've been to, but it's pretty non-specific about the parks. I mean, they might mention a road or a mountain or something, or a trail, right? But you rightly pointed out that a lot of the parks kind of sound the same when it comes down to it. So it follows a format. And however, I do like that you called out the spooky music because that is my favorite part. Is I do think the theme music is strong, captures kind of that Wild West desolate sound. Brings me back to the Badlands National Park. So I thought maybe we could just play a quick clip of it.
Let's do it.
Oh, so creepy.
Very creepy.
I mean, that if I have to be murdered while hiking, I hope it's to the tune of that.
Yeah, I look forward to other spin-offs of this show. You could do like museum predators. People murdered in the Met. That's happened.
Murdered at the Met.
Murdered at the Met. Park predators next season could be about all the people who died of COVID and Disney.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of ideas, folks.
COVID at the Kingdom, they could call it.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, no, this is brilliant. I love that idea of just the endless spin-offs of people.
Yeah.
Do you think they're at all concerned over at Park Predators that predators might be listening to this and going, national parks, of course. Why haven't I been thinking about it? Because every episode makes a lot. They really talk about how, well, and of course, nobody heard the surely horrible screams during the attack because you can really get away from it all in the national parks.
It both makes you want to visit a national park and sort of fear for your life. So, like one of the episodes, the woman's with her like faithful dog.
Yeah.
Doesn't help,
No. They find the dog and then they find the bodies.
And every single person so far has been a strong hiker, which they say that as like a compliment. Like, and Mary Lou was a strong hiker,
right? So it was unlike Mary Lou not to return,
right? No one says that about me.
No, I think you'd be picked off.
And Ryan was a terrible hiker, so we didn't look for days. We just figured he'd
actually
be back.
That's keeping you safe. The fact that you're always 5 feet away from the trailhead.
I'm like, oof, the elevation's over 100 feet. I'm not going up there.
No, Ryan, if you had to be murdered in one national park, which one would you like to be murdered in?
Probably Alaska, because you'd be preserved long enough in the time.
Oh, that's interesting. Like you'd be frozen into the ice.
Yeah. That would be good, right?
I think that I would. I'm going to go old school here. I think that I would like to be murdered on the boardwalk in Yellowstone because I like the idea that I would fall off and just immediately burn and just die in the hot springs. Oh, but then maybe Old Faithful blows your body back up every 90 minutes. That's not. Good.
Look, if the option was to be murdered by being pushed in Old Faithful, that would be a good.
I mean, I think it would hurt. It would hurt.
That would be a really good episode of Park Predators because usually it's like,
How about that's true. Good. Actually, you're right.
We need more inventive Park Predators.
Yes, this is the key to making Park Predators better. Would be if people were killed in creative ways that corresponded to the park. So, for example, shoving somebody off the rim of the Grand Canyon. Now,
that is a story.
Now, that is a story, Park Predators.
Yeah. No, we don't have anything like that. We just have people went hiking and didn't come back. And it's all like, all the stories are like in the 80s. The 80s seemed like a really dangerous time to go to the park.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's a strange show. I think I'm going to keep listening.
Yeah, so you're gonna go all the way.
I'm going to see it through, but I'm shocked to learn of its great popularity. I have to admit. So you're right. But there's money in true crime. I did notice. Have you noticed in the episodes how badly they transition to ad reads? So it'll be like, always. And then they found her hands and her feet, but her head weren't attached. Sometimes your hair doesn't look good, and that's why you have to try. And it's
well, the big joke on true crime podcasts, right, is they'll say like, and this woman, she locked her door and she was asleep and she was murdered. And that's why you need a home security system. Yeah. So it's really,
but they don't even attempt that. So also, how are they not advertising like camping gear and
camping gear with a lock,
hiking boots that you can run in. I mean,
GPS finder, so your body isn't lay there for too many days.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, I think that there is a very good idea buried in this somewhat lackluster podcast right now.
Buried, yeah. Well,
all right, Ryan.
What are we talking about next week, Kiernan?
Ryan, next time we are going to keep our promise, and we're not going to be. Unless there's some really big news out of Disney World. Unless the Magic Kingdom has to be converted into a hospital because the Orlando hospitals have overflow.
Florida's headed that way.
So. It's not that far. Unless that happens, we're going to talk about those virtual tours that are taking the place of actual destination travel. And I wouldn't be surprised if next time we also have, actually in many ways, I hope we can do some updates on these theme parks closing and maybe even introducing a virtual tour. So we're each going to do one. And then we're going to talk about what the experience was like. And then we are going to include resources for those who might be interested in escaping their lockdown by experiencing the world through their computer screens.
That sounds very exciting. I cannot wait.
It's sad. It's sad. We're a travel podcast. We want to be out there traveling, but we're trying to do the best we can.
Until then, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat disinfected.
Now, Kiernan, would you go to the Star Wars theme park?
Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, would you? I mean, it's empty,
which is part of Disney World.
And empty now, right?
I think I would be willing to put on a stormtrooper mask.
Yeah.
That to protect me, and I think I would. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, see, you should do that and report back to us.
Also, the COVID wasn't an issue a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
I'm sure they had their own stuff they were dealing with.